heartache later. It's easier than you think. We're Brown Funeral Homes, family-owned, in business for over 135 years, since 1880. And we're home-based, right here in the Eastern Panhandle. Think smart. Think ahead. Brown Funeral Homes, Martinsburg, Inwood, and Charlestown, Ranson. Brown Funeral Homes. We're here for you.
It's time for your Berkeley County Health Department summer food safety tips. We're talking with Kara Harding about how long we can leave grilled meat outside in the summer.
Shouldn't be out longer than 4.
4 hours is our point. Now, what if it's in room temperature in the house? You grill it outside, you bring it inside, we still have 4 hours?
Yes, because it's not maintained at hot holding temp or cold holding temperature on cold items. Anything that sits in what we call the danger zone there, that temperature in between, and that's when bacteria will start to grow.
Have a safe summer from the Berkeley County Health Department. Find out more at bchealthdept.org. Do you hear that? Nothing beats the sound of summer unless it's finding a way to make cleaning your pool easier. Now you can with Pool Life. Our complete line of premium pool care products is the easiest solution under the sun for crystal clear, clean pool fun. Get the most brilliant clean ever seen all summer long with Pool Life. Only at fine pool dealers like John's Pool Supplies, close to Gold's Gym on Eagle School Road in Martinsburg. Ask about quality PDC hot tubs. Phone 267-2000 or go online at johnspoolsupplies.com.
Kids, what's the rule about running in the house?
Always run hard out of the box.
That's not what I said.
She's running third. Here comes the play at the plate. Uh-oh.
Let's clean that up before Mom gets home.
Exciting baseball action and quality family time? There's a place for that. Nationals Park. Get more bang for your buck this baseball season with deals on tickets and concessions for the whole family. See you at Nationals Park, your place to run wild. Buy your tickets today at nationals.com.
Talk Radio WRNR studios. It's time for Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob Mario and David Welch.
Good morning and welcome into the program, Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave, brought to you in this first segment by Miller Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Route 9 east of Martinsburg, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. Morning, Dave.
Rob, good morning.
And our intern...
Someone ate my candy bars.
This morning is Savon Hunter, as always. Good morning, Savon.
Good morning.
And our producer is Sherry Dieter Davis.
She ate one of them.
Yes.
I had one too, Dave.
You had one too?
Yeah, I did.
These were for the Friday crew. There's a note right on here, Savon, that says for the Friday crew.
Oh my!
I'm just.
Savon, you shouldn't have fessed up.
I'm just chagrined.
This is.
No, I mean it was honorable that she did that.
No.
But they were my candy bars. They didn't belong to anybody else.
I was looking forward to the investigation. I really was looking forward to the investigation.
5 candy bars gone. They were probably gone by 5 minutes after I left this building.
I don't think it was 5 minutes even. I think it was.
See, I was blaming it on the match.
You went around the
you
corner.
You guys fessed up. I was blaming it on the 5 o'clock guys.
Well, yeah, I think one of them got one of them.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think you were out the purview of the glass window, and they were like that, gone.
Well, I just think that they were for a purpose. They were message bars to be handed out to the Friday crew based upon bad behavior, good behavior, or whatever.
In defense of the eating of the candy bars, Dave, I think that people
There
thought...
is no defense.
I think people thought, well, David Welch is such a generous guy. And David Welch is against world hunger. We know that. These are some of the qualities that make you the beloved David Welch that you are. We know how you feel about hunger out there.
I just think there's a lot of chocoholics around here who couldn't
that could
resist.
be it too.
I mean,
I think that people thought Welch is being so kind and generous to give us free food on a Friday when he knows everybody's hungry.
You think that's what they thought? They think that they thought all the way through that?
I think
had they taken the time to think all the way through that, they'd have read this note that says,
"No,
to the Friday crew."
And since they were left behind, people probably assumed the Friday crew passed on the Snickers bars because they all saw them there the entire show, left the room, and thought somebody else will eat these. And they were right. Somebody did.
If my daughter is listening, I just want to say, Laura, I am sorry for the pigs that I work with here at WRNR.
I think that's an unfortunate term.
And that they just scarfed up your candy bars that you bought with your hard-earned money and gave as a gift for the Friday group.
I think Laura would be proud of the fact that
you left them behind after the Friday crew didn't eat them, and knowing full well that people are hungry, they will eat the Snickers bars. And as a result, you're kind of a hero around here this morning. By a lot of people regard you as a hero for leaving Snickers bars behind.
Well, here's the question. Do you think our workplace is any different than any other workplace? Let's say that a teacher was in the teacher room and had a basket of candy bars.
Gone.
And had a note on there that said, "These are for my 5th graders." Do you think the other teachers would eat those candy bars?
Yes, if the 5th graders had already come and gone and left them behind. Because that's what happened yesterday or Friday. Our 5th graders came and left.
5th graders came.
And they, afterward, what are the choices? Are we going to throw this away? It'd be a shame to waste the food. The 5th graders didn't eat it. What are we going to do? So Savon bravely volunteered, selfless as she is, to say,
sneak into the studio.
No, I invited
and
her
to
in.
look at those. And then did she eat it in front of you? Or you probably had already eaten yours. You probably ate them together, didn't you?
Couldn't
and then
tell.
Sherry came in and the 3 of you had a Snicker bar party together.
I couldn't tell if Savon was eating her Snickers bar because these were the large Snickers bars, by the way, not the little fun size, but the old when we were kids size.
Yeah,
right?
they
the
were
full candy bar.
And on each of them, they had a different little name: Irritable,
Yes.
Princess, whatever it might be.
And they were so large. While I was eating mine, I couldn't see around me who was eating theirs. So I don't know if she ate hers in
I
front of
don't
me
know
or
if they have a BSer on the top of the Snickers bar, but I'm going to bring that one in for Rob if they have it.
I think that this morning, people around the Eastern Panhandle are saying, I think they're lauding the name of David Welch, saying there's a man who fights hunger. We love David Welch.
How could they?
David Welch for mayor.
I don't think they're thinking that. I think they're
You don't live in the city limits, do you?
No, I
David
don't.
Welch for county council.
I think that what they're thinking is that David Welch is selfish with his candy bars.
No, you were going to hand them out to people. That makes you generous.
Yeah, and I was going to hand them. If they're my candy, let's look at it this way: if you own something and you want to share it,
Yeah.
you should be the one. I'm going to ask a question: should you be the one to hand those out as you please if you own those?
Yes. If you take advantage of the opportunity to hand them out, which you did not.
Don't you think that I should be asked first?
Well, you were gone.
Ah, I see.
Let me tell you what the problem is here, Dave.
So
You're
so
too trusting.
I think well,
you love people. You think the best of
I
people, and you
do.
shouldn't do that. I hope you learned a valuable lesson.
I have learned a
Frankly,
valuable
this is
lesson.
on you. All
Yes,
right?
it is. No, I own this. I've learned a lesson, and I know very clearly now
Yes.
either not to bring food in,
No, that's not the lesson here.
or to hoard it,
No, that's not the
or
lesson
to
either.
take it with me so others can't have it.
Again, these are all bad
I think
lessons.
those
you
are
learn.
things that I've learned.
I think the lesson
from
you
this.
should learn is right now there are at least 6 people out there singing the praises of David Welch as a generous
6
person
people
who donated
you,
Snickers.
Savon, and Sherry are 3 of the 6.
Yes.
Okay.
We don't know who the other 3 are at this moment.
Well, we can probably narrow that down. Rodney, probably. Did Rodney have one?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Savon, did you notice if Rodney
both
had
Matts. There were
I
5.
didn't notice.
Both Matts.
Savon, was that
probably.
not a tasty treat David left for us?
Mine was espresso flavored.
Oh, they make that?
It was good.
I didn't even know
See,
that. What do you think of David Welch this morning, Savon, for leaving that generous treat behind on Friday?
I'm happy.
Don't you kind of love him right now?
Yeah.
See, I love David this morning, too. I had a Snickers on Friday.
Okay, let me put it this way. Had I not left candy bars behind, Savon, would you still love me this morning?
Of course.
See, I didn't have to leave
Just
candy.
not as much.
I did not have to buy her love, Rob.
But, Savon,
with
don't you
chocolate.
agree, having had a full-size Snickers bar to tame your hunger on Friday, that you kind of like Dave a bit more now?
I agree.
Right?
There was maybe a special D-Dub glow about her
I think
all
so.
weekend long.
See,
That's what maybe that did happen.
like on the 100-meter for loving David Welch, and we all know you want to be liked. You've said it many times.
Absolutely.
You need to be liked.
Being loved is important
Yes.
to me. Right.
If 60 is liking, right, and 100 is loving, Savon was at like 62 on the like David Welch meter early Friday. By the end of Friday, she was up like around, 93, 94?
And
Savon?
how
I
about,
agree.
And how about
See?
you, Rob?
And she agrees.
Where were you on that?
Well, you know, me, Dave, by Friday, I'm around 11 for liking David Welch. And on Monday, I'm like at 92.
Friday at 10 o'clock is kind of like Freedom Day for Rob and
By
me.
Friday,
All right, they're letting us
I'm
out
close
of
to
our
single
cage.
digits by
They
Friday.
are
But
letting
after the
us
Snickers
out.
bar, I was in the 20s for you. I was all the way up to like, say, 28 or 29 after the Snickers bar.
And now that you realize that I'm angry and upset
I'm around the
and
teens.
unhappy with
Gotta
everybody,
say I'm in the teens
have I
now.
dipped a little bit?
Not gonna lie,
Well,
you're in the
good.
teens.
Okay, I don't need your love. I need your
and
respect.
not even
I
the
need
high
you to
teens.
I need you to respect
See, now you're
me.
going single digits with that line right there.
Right. Yeah, I need a little
And
respect.
frankly, I think some of the glow Savon had for you has come off as well, because I think she's seeing an ugly pettiness she hasn't seen before, and I think it's hurting her. Remember, she's young. She could get jaded. You don't want that for Savon, do you? You don't want Savon jaded.
Can I think about that?
No. We want what's best for the young lady.
I just need a little time on that.
We don't want a jaded Savon. Savon, don't be jaded.
Well, you know what? She got over it.
We want Savon to be
She
flowing with
absolutely got over it.
good feelings about you right now.
So on your rain-o-meter for the weekend,
Oh,
last
my
week
goodness.
you said that we had gone 8 weekends in a row with at
And
least
it was,
some rain.
It was broken, and now we're right back on the rain scale.
Yes, we are. It rained so much this weekend.
I went.
I've got a flood in my yard actually. I got 6 inches of water in the middle of one of the parts of my yard that couldn't even be mowed.
You
on
heard my
Sunday.
niece's story on Friday.
Yes.
Where that
Yeah,
was in
and
Pittsburgh.
I've got relatives in Pittsburgh as well who have, been telling us about how they canceled the regatta over the weekend.
Which seems, you would think boating would be acceptable, but we learned from you, if you boat during a flood, you could lose your glasses.
The last time
Or your life,
the last time I had a boat in a flood on the Beaver River, which is off the Ohio River, we almost lost our whole dock.
It'll happen.
Yeah, because the dam broke and it came down.
Don't swear on
back
this
in
show.
04.
There's around wine country nearby. The Hercules Dam
The
in
DAM dam
right?
broke. The dam broke.
Do you know the Hercules Dam in California?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm out a few years back at a wedding in California. My wife and I, the plane ticket was a Thursday to Tuesday, because you could actually, at that time, for $298, round trip ticket to San Francisco for the wedding if you stayed 5 days. So we're, sure, why not? You got to stay 3 for a wedding anyway, right? So stayed 5 days, took a trip to wine country. And on the way to Napa Valley, somewhere along the way, I'm passing something called the Hercules Dam, I'm pretty sure it was. And along the way through, I'm noticing all the stores are named after the dam. You had the dam suit store, the damn food store. It was very funny the way they did it. I thought, well, that's kind of humorous.
Yeah,
I kind of like that.
That is a good
right?
one.
It was all the DAM.
The damn radio station.
Right, exactly. So I thought that was kind of funny.
That's a good one.
Saturday, we drove up to Pittsburgh for a graduation party.
Oh, so you got to see it firsthand then.
And
the water damage.
The whole way up, it rained on us for the most part.
Yeah, it was a terrible day.
We stopped at Deep Creek and dropped in on Joanne Wadsworth up there. Said hello. She gave us a few pointers on some things up
Did she
there.
have any Snicker bars?
No, she didn't have any Snickers bars. Then we drove right from there back to Pittsburgh. Now, my wife's sister, was throwing the graduation party for her stepson, and she's a singer in a band too. It's one of the things she does. She's a teacher. She sells some real estate on the side, and she sings in a band.
That's an eclectic life, isn't it?
Indeed.
So rock band?
Kind of, yeah. Pop and whatever.
Okay.
Pop and rock.
Mm-hmm.
So she had her whole band set up, and it hadn't rained all day long where she lives south of Pittsburgh, Washington County. And we must have brought the cloud with us because it poured. I mean, the downpour was like for 20 minutes. It just came down with everything it had. And they had to scramble and move all the food inside. The band had to rush all their instruments into the garage. And then once it stopped raining, it was done. And but the backyard was like a mud pit at that point.
Oh, dear.
So that kind of put a damper on the party, no pun intended there.
Mm-hmm.
And then yesterday, I went to see Incredibles 2.
And why did you go see that?
My son's birthday was Saturday, and when it's your birthday, you get to request what everybody does.
Oh,
You
okay.
get to pick the dinner, you get to pick the entertainment, so he
Nice.
picked Incredibles 2. Savannah, have you seen Incredibles 2 yet?
I haven't actually. I really want to.
You got to see Incredibles 2. It's just great.
Do you have to see Incredibles 1 before you enjoy Incredibles 2?
Not necessarily. It would probably help a little bit with the background, but Incredibles 2 is very, very good.
Oh, okay.
And
That's all animated, right?
It is, yes. Yeah. Disney Pixar.
Right.
Did you see?
It's like a 90-minute cartoon.
A little longer, but yeah. But did you see it? Did you see the original Incredibles? Savannah?
Yeah, I've seen
Okay,
it.
it's awesome, right?
Yes.
It's
of
amazing.
course.
It took 14 years for them to do the sequel.
Yeah.
But they did the sequel, and they knocked it out of the park. I got to tell you. So I'm on this website this morning that tracks how movies did at the box office over the weekend. It's called boxofficemojo.com. So I go on there, and I'm looking for like the top 5 or 10 movies, and Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom is number 1.
You must have really been bored
No, it's part of what I do Monday morning for the show.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
6 to 8 a.m. I
Okay.
give out lots of information, including
I do know that.
big weekend movies, right?
Okay.
Wanted to see how Incredibles 2 did. Was it number 1 or number 2? So Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was the number 1 movie at the box office. It grossed $150,001,000.
That's a lot of money.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it still hasn't made money because the budget for this was $170 million. So it's still $20 million.
But they have lots
below.
of time.
This was the first weekend.
Right.
But just to show you how much these kind of movies cost now, they took it $150 million. They're still $20 million below sea level on this one yet. That's Jurassic.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, and it cost $150 million because it's the time and the hours it takes
$170.
to create.
It cost $170.
$170. The reason it takes so much money is you've got dozens and dozens of animators and so forth working to create this, and that's where the dollars go.
Incredibles 2 finished number 2.
Oh, okay. So you went to a very popular movie then.
It was sold out. The 2 afternoon movies for Incredibles 2 at the theater I went to were sold out. And it did $80,928,000, which pushes its 2-week total to $350 million.
So have they made money yet?
It doesn't say what the budget was for this movie, but $350 million would be a profitable movie, no matter how you slice it.
Okay.
And you go all the way down the list, and this lists all 46 movies that were shown this weekend.
At number
At the
46.
theater.
Tell me about number 46.
Number 46 is the movie Breath.
Breath.
Have you heard of Breath, Savon?
I haven't.
I've not either. Guess how much, if the number 1 movie in the country this weekend grossed $150 million, guess how much
$170 million.
the number 46 movie, no, it needs 170 to break even.
Oh,
It
okay,
grossed
so
150.
150.
Yeah. Breath as the number 46 movie grossed what? What do you think? Take a guess.
A few $100,000.
Yeah,
Savon?
I was gonna say 100,000.
Breath grossed $950.
Oh my gosh.
That means that 40 people went to see it.
I'm laughing at Savon's reaction.
What was their budget?
Their budget was $30,000. It cost $31,000 to make that movie.
Okay, so they're what, about 29,000 behind right now then.
They got trouble.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It doesn't list what the budget was. It says the total gross of the movie was $30,970 through 4 weeks. So it's made $30,970 as the gross amount of
Because $30,000 to make a movie, that means they were working for free.
That's
so
a low
I
budget,
highly doubt that.
low budget movie.
Right.
Now there's a movie that has grossed a lot of money. I Can Only Imagine. It came in number 30 this week, grossed $34,000, but in the 15 weeks it's been out, it's grossed $83 million, and it has a couple of big name people in it too.
$83 million over how many weeks?
15.
Okay, so it's probably made money over a long period of time.
You'd guess.
Yeah.
Dennis Quaid and Cloris Leachman are in it.
Yeah, those are big names.
Have you heard of this movie?
What's the name of it?
I Can Only Imagine.
I think I have seen TV promos on
Do you have
it.
any idea what it's about?
Well,
I know it's about a singer. The song is called I Can Only Imagine.
Okay. Because I've not heard of the movie for as much as it's grossed, which is $83 million. You'd think I'd have heard of it.
It sounds like maybe it could be sort of a middle-aged love affair or something like that, given the age of the two
people are older,
actors,
right?
And there is a market for that out there. You know, people who are over a certain age like to go see movies about themselves sometimes. Savannah,
Savannah's laughing. At you, man.
When you laugh at me, Savannah, you need to turn your microphone off. Thank you.
I turn it up when she starts to laugh. I get maximum volume.
Well, am I right? I am right, though, right? So
I'm not sure.
I mean, folks my age don't want to always go see movies about 19-year-olds.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
When I went to the movie yesterday, it literally was 1/2 of an hour straight of previews and short films before they got to the movie.
It's terrible, and it just gets longer and longer. If the movie starts at 2:15, you really don't need to go until 2:45.
Right. It would 30
Of course, I like
minutes.
previews, don't you?
Well,
up to a point. I like them until I stop liking them.
Here's the thing, though. Yesterday, since it's regarded as a kids' movie, Incredibles, even though there was a lot of adults there.
No wonder you enjoyed it.
I really did.
Yeah.
So they show you all of the kids' movie previews. They're not going to show you rated R previews because they're assuming there are young kids in the theater. So I sat through a half an hour of what basically is thought to be appealing to young kids, and almost all of them had the same theme of a dog. So apparently young kids really love dog movies. They were either animated dogs or real-life dog actors or dog actresses.
Dogs have always been big for kids. You go back to Lassie in the 1940s and 50s. I mean, dogs have always been big winners on the
kids,
screen.
Apparently. So, and that's what they're marketing to kids now is dog movies. So the top grossing movie that's still out there right now is Black Panther. It came in at number 25 this week.
It was number one for the first several weeks
yes.
that it was out.
It's up to $699,745,000. It just needs a couple of more moviegoers to crack the $700 million
and
mark.
then that doesn't even begin to account
overseas
the distribution rights that go out. Yeah, overseas distribution rights that go out. It gets on some streaming platform. It doesn't count any of that yet. So it's going to make a lot more money during its lifetime.
$699 million, and the number 2 grosser that's still out there is Avengers Infinity War, which is at $669 million.
Yeah.
So there's some movies out there that have had some legs to them. Deadpool 2 is over $300 million. Incredibles 2 went over $350 million. Solo, Star Wars story went over $200 million this weekend. A Quiet Place is up to $186 million. What's A Quiet Place? Have you seen this movie?
It's about aliens taking over.
Oh,
the
that's
world.
right. You can't
They
talk.
Can't talk. It's really
John
good.
Krasinski's in that movie.
Yeah,
and I think he directed it. So you've seen it?
Yes.
Okay.
So if $100 million comes
Sherry
in,
says Deadpool 2 is a great movie.
If $100 million comes in on your movie, and people are generally paying these days, what, $10 a ticket?
It cost us about $14 to buy them online per ticket, $13.50 I think after the handling fee to buy them
So
online.
do quick math on that. It means you're actually putting a product out there that 100,000 people or so are going to purchase. They're going to go see your product, your movie.
More than that. If you got $100 million, then you got
Just trying to do how many
10 million people are if they're paying $10 a ticket.
So that means 10 million people. So that's 10 million. So you make something and 10 million people are going to go buy it. You make $100 million. It's pretty good.
Yeah, if you're at $10 a ticket.
Yeah,
so if that's the average. And that's probably a little higher.
If you do up to that one movie that's 700 million, you're talking about a significant percentage of the American population are going out to see that movie.
And people are going to see it 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
Well, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Do you
Over
go
and
watch movies multiple times? I generally do not do that.
I do.
No, when I was a
do
kid.
You? So
when I was Savon's age, I did.
No, so you'll go see a movie and you'll really like it, and you'll go back several times to see the same one?
Yeah, I saw Black Panther 4 times in theaters.
How much money have you put out to see Black Panther?
Per ticket?
Probably $40.
$40. There you go. Mm-hmm. You must really like it then.
Yeah, we have it. My mom bought it on TV. She just watched it the other day.
What is it about that movie that you really love?
I don't know. Every time I watch it, I just think of how I felt the first time I watched it. So then it makes me still like it.
She likes the abs, the cut abs.
Oh, of course.
Rob.
Well, she said, of course.
I know she did. Because she's honest.
The chiseled cut abs.
Right. Those guys that don't eat Snicker bars, I'll bet.
Probably didn't get to touch a Snickers bar during the year leading up to that movie.
I'll bet you not.
It would be my guess.
Yeah. They just ate, protein and went to CrossFit class.
Guaranteed.
They're like Phil McCoy.
I remember, and he's going to join us in about 5 minutes, by the way. Gerard Butler. Remember 300? The movie 300?
Yes.
Gerard Butler started in that, right? Mm-hmm. Did you see that movie, Savon?
I didn't see it, but I remember.
No.
Okay, Savon would have been about 8 when that was out there. But Gerard Butler talked about how they were trying to get him cut up, and he said after working out for 2 hours in the gym, he was ready to eat everything, and they gave him a handful of almonds. He's like, what's this? That's your meal. He's like, what, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Gotta make the sacrifices, Dave.
Great show coming up, everyone. Stay with us.
8:31, and Phil McCoy will be joining us, Financial Phil from Bunker Hill. And in the 9 o'clock hour, by the way, things will get very interesting. We'll tell you more about that as
very
the time comes along here on Talk Radio WRNR. And Rob Cornelius will be with us as well this morning, too. It's 8:31.
And there's nothing I can do about it now. I've got a wild...
CBS News Update. Less than a week after he okayed family reunions, President Trump is back to tough talk on illegal border crossings. He wants immediate deportations without hearings before judges. Mr. Trump says there's one way around it all.
We have to have the wall. If anything, it shows how much we need the wall. But It's the Democrats' fault, but it wouldn't be their fault for long if they sat down with us. We could make a deal so quickly.
The president with Mike Huckabee on his Trinity Broadcasting Network show. Administration officials say they've arranged 500 family reunions. They're working on 2,000 others. CBS's Maria Villarreal is near the U.S.-Texas border in Tornillo.
What we have heard from a lot of these families is that they do not know where their children are. I do believe that Immigration Customs Enforcement, ICE, does know and is tracking all these children, but tracking the children and giving information or communicating with other agencies is where we are seeing the disconnect.
CBS News Update.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. A medical examiner is reviewing the case after a body was found in the Shannondale area near the Shenandoah River early Saturday. That's according to a report in the Herald Mail. Jefferson County Sheriff Pete Doherty said no foul play is suspected. Police were asked to help look for a missing young man out of Virginia who is believed to be in the area. Doherty didn't identify that person. Officers from Jefferson and Loudoun County, Virginia, along with Virginia State Police, were involved in the hours-long search. According to a report in the Journal, multiple units with the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office and the West Virginia State Police responded to Interstate 81 Friday afternoon after several accidents shut down all the southbound lanes. Accidents were reported at the 5-mile, the 7.5-mile, and the 8-mile markers involving multiple tractor-trailers and passenger vehicles. 2 accidents happened side by side, according to Sheriff Curtis Keller, but no serious injuries were reported. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
We're seeing a couple of very different weather patterns setting up for the Eastern Panhandle here for the next several days. That according to the weather models and charts that we're pulling here this morning. Looking at temperatures close to 80, not only this afternoon, but tomorrow too. That runs just a little bit below average for this point in the season. Lots of sunshine, though, and low humidity, so very pleasant. Not much of a breeze. Into Wednesday, a warm front developing to the south will head this way. It will increase our cloud cover, bring us our next chance for some showers and a couple of afternoon thunderstorms, and a high temperature again, lower 80s. Then it gets hot and muggy Thursday and Friday with temperatures near 90. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio, WRNR.
It's that time of year for loud bangs. No, not just thunderstorms, but fireworks. The city of Martinsburg reminds you that even though West Virginia State Code permits the sale of fireworks, discharging them within city limits is prohibited. And this Martinsburg City Ordinance is in force all year long. Set off fireworks within the city of Martinsburg and you're risking a fine of $500, 30 days in jail, or both. Don't risk it. The discharge of fireworks within city limits is against the law. If you see or hear fireworks being discharged, call the Martinsburg Police Department at 304-264-2100. That's 304-264-2100. Remember, it's against the law to set off fireworks in the city of Martinsburg today and every day. This message paid for by the city of Martinsburg.
The Wellness Center at Berkeley Medical Center introduces a healthy way of life. It's not just another diet, but a weight management program developed by the Wellness Center that includes metabolic testing, a simple 10-minute breathing test that determines how many calories your body actually needs, followed by working one-on-one with a health coach to develop a personalized mix of exercise and nutrition to tip the scales in your favor towards successful weight loss. A lifetime of good health awaits at the Wellness Center. For more info, call 304-264-1232.
Hi, honey.
Where are you?
I've been in line at the post office for the last 30 minutes.
Why are you at the post office? It'll take you all day.
Where else do I go to ship my packages or drop FedEx off at?
Honey, going postal is way faster, has less lines, and friendly service.
Where's going postal?
It's right in the Common Shopping Center in Martinsburg. They'll ship your packages quickly, and you can avoid the lines.
Going postal should be your first choice for all your shipping needs. Going postal, the Commons, Martinsburg. L.A. Roberts is Berkeley County's oldest jeweler, where every season is new and exciting. In fact, new is old school to us, and though it's nothing new, our old traditions like exceptional service, quality, and value maintain L.A. Roberts Jewelers as the old master among so many new kids on the block. Whether you are a newcomer or part of the old guard, entrust all your fine jewelry needs to L.A. Roberts, Old World Jewelers for a new age, in historic downtown Martinsburg. segment of the show brought to you by Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies. When it comes to your home, auto, farm, or business, we're trusted, reliable, and experienced at Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies. Morning, Davey.
Good morning to you. Nothing but abuse this morning. Nothing but abuse.
Our wonderful intern this spring and summer is Siobhan Hunter. Hello, Siobhan.
Hi.
Siobhan, when do you go back to school? August when?
August, I think 12.
August 12th.
Yeah.
Okay. And our producer is Sherry Dieter Davis, who's a great aunt now, or just are you?
Yeah, she would be a great aunt.
Yeah,
Yes, she had a great nephew, so that would make her a great aunt.
She's totally psyched about.
She's great
that,
at
too.
everything she does.
She's Sherry Dieter Davis.
A little play on words there.
I got a text, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
The text I got, one of them from Judy Boykin.
Okay.
Who I believe this is a total undressing and chastising of you. Judy
I told
will
you this
disagree.
is Abusive Monday here.
But I think, Dave,
I did not read it that way necessarily, because I'm going to give her some facts so she'll understand the situation a little bit better. Then she will retract that text and send you a new one.
See, I think this starts a movement. This ends the gloss of David Welch. This morning, the gloss on David Welch, the sheen is gone. You're like going to be you're like that Turtle Wax commercial where they would show the car waxed 50 times with some crappy wax, and then like one coat of Turtle Wax, and the car had big blobs of water on it because the wax would repel the water.
And that sheen that you're trying to promote here through a false campaign and fake news, that I am not a sharing and giving and loving person.
I don't think I'm working that hard at promoting that. I think
I think you're going overtime.
Come across here. But I want the rest of the public to see the person that I see every day, which is a wonderful, giving, loving, sharing man that you are, whose candy bars were gone this morning, and he got very, very upset. This from Judy.
I wouldn't say very, very upset. I think
there's a vein sticking out of your head.
Just upset would be good. I don't think the very, very qualifies here. Very, very upset.
You think it's one very on the meter? Siobhan, would you call it a very, very, or just a very upset?
I think it was a very, very.
So two varies. Siobhan agrees with me.
You seemed really upset.
Siobhan, I know you think you're staying here till August 12th. But if I have a vote in this, we're going to have a conference on this.
All right, Siobhan, I vote you remain here till August 12th. How do you vote, Siobhan?
I vote remain.
And Dave, how do you vote? For or against?
I vote for it to remain. It's okay. I can take it.
Because you were going to lose 2-1.
No, but
I you saw the tea leaves on this
I think
one.
I have 6 weeks to win her back. Okay, that's what I'm going to do.
Judy writes in and says, David must decide if he brought the candy so others would see him as nice, or did he do it to be nice? No glory needed. It's kind of an Eastern thought there. I kind of like that.
And I think she raises a really good point. And if it was just, I think she's missing a fact, though. Judy, here's what I need to tell you. I brought these candy bars in specifically to hand out to members of the Friday political crew that gathers around the table, which includes you sometimes, based upon behavior that they exhibited that could be irritable or friendly or whatever it might be, wimpy, undecided, different kinds of things. So they were for a specific purpose. And may I add, there was a note in the basket that said, please keep your hands off these candy bars. This is for the Friday crew.
Under penalty of law. Yeah.
And they ate them anyway. So I think now that you have those facts, now to the face of your question.
Yes.
Would I do something to be nice or to do it just for the appearance of being nice? And this brings up whether or not I'm passive-aggressive or not, I would think.
Are you passive-aggressive?
I don't think I am. I think I would have done it to be nice. If I bring something in and share it with everybody, it's because I genuinely care about almost everybody who works here.
I noted the qualifier on that one, Dave, where you said almost everybody who works here.
I do.
It wasn't unequivocal, complete, total caring for everybody.
And I think most people know what I mean when I say that. I don't even think I have to say your name, Rob.
So much for that whole "I'm not passive aggressive" thing. Yeah.
No, that's just aggressive.
That campaign went right out the window with that.
My favorite definition of passive aggressive has always been
what's that?
Agree in principle, deny in fact. And if you think about it, all politicians are great at that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Oh, sure. I believe in you. Then they go vote another way when they get into office.
Financial Phil from Bunker Hill is on the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. Philly.
Happy Monday, guys.
Morning to you, my brother. How are you?
Living the dream, man.
So you know the answer to I Can Only Imagine. In fact, you could actually give us a movie review here.
I can. I've seen it. I don't want to give up too many details because actually, it's not. I was drugged there, but it was a good movie. It was. We had to go with the kids, so it wasn't a child movie, but it's child appropriate, I would say. But it's a religious movie.
Oh.
That song I Can Only Imagine is a gospel song.
Okay.
So it was basically a story about the singer and writer of that song and the struggles he had growing up, and his father, Dennis Quaid, was a big reason for those struggles, and Trace Atkins is also in that movie. He played a huge role, the tall country singer.
Mm-hmm.
Played a huge role in that movie, but it was a good movie. It really was. It was a good movie.
What is Cloris Leachman's role in the movie?
I think she's the mother.
That would make sense.
Yeah, but the mother wasn't around long. But I'd have to go back and watch it because but it was a good movie. The majority of the movie is based around Dennis Quaid. Amy Grant played in the movie, and Trace Atkins, and the actor who played the singer. I don't even know his name, but he looks like I just watched the movie last night. I forget his name, but he looks like another actor. But,
Phil, did you cry? Did you cry, Phil?
Sir, I could proudly say I have never cried in a movie.
What?
I can proudly say that. It's a movie. I can't cry in a movie.
Wow. I mean,
does that make me sound like a bad guy? I mean, you have to think of the...
when Lou Gehrig, in the Lou Gehrig story, you didn't cry when he was making his speech at the end?
I hate to say this, but I didn't watch Lou Gehrig. But now, I would say this, though. If I was going to cry, the best movie I have ever watched, I was reminded the other night, Remember the Titans. That was the best movie I've ever seen.
Remember the Titans?
Remember the Titans.
What we need here is a backside George.
Hey, what's that football
That was the
movie?
reverse call they scored on.
Yeah, what's the high school football movie? It's not that one. It's the one where the coach makes the kid crawl the whole length of the field with the guy on his back. Have you ever seen that?
I have, and I can't answer
That's
that.
a great scene.
But I have seen it.
Herman Boone, who was the coach Denzel Washington played in Remember the Titans, was a speaker one year up here at the Apple Harvest Sports Breakfast, the Bob Elmer Celebrity Sports Breakfast. Herman Boone was the speaker, and I was the MC that year. And Herman Boone stood up, and his first line was, in regards to Remember the Titans, he said, a couple differences in the movie. One, I'm better looking than Denzel Washington. That got a laugh.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because he wasn't.
Yeah, that's a good one, right.
And then, two, he said everything, pretty much everything in that movie happened. It's just that it didn't necessarily happen in the order they showed it in the movie.
They changed things around to make it more movie appropriate.
It's more dramatic if you win the title game on the last play, as opposed to they actually won a playoff game on the last play. The title game wasn't actually that close. But
Well, I'll tell you what I did was, because it finished the movie by saying, hey, they finished second in the nation. And watching the movie, a lot of those games were close.
Mm-hmm.
So I did some research, and none of those games were close. They absolutely smoked everybody. I think the total point differential through the year was like 345 to 50 or something. It was unbelievable.
I think that high school was over in Alexandria.
Yeah, T.C. Williams is the high
T.C. Williams,
school.
yeah, there you go.
And they're in Northern Virginia.
Right.
And when I moved to Northern Virginia in 86, they were still a powerhouse in the 80s, and I went to one of their games in probably 87, maybe 88 on a Friday night, me and a bunch of guys I worked with. So
it was a good movie, though.
Yeah. Herman Boone was no longer the coach by that time, but they were still a powerhouse. Very strong team. I don't know how they are anymore, but they were very good back then. Phil, it's a horrible morning on Wall Street, and it's been kind of a drag for the Dow for the last 2 weeks here. Dow Futures are down better than 160 points this morning, and I guess tariffs are the big thing right now, and trade war fears once again. Is this enough to actually send the markets into correction?
Possibly, and the underlying thing that maybe hasn't gotten any headlines yet is China's dollar has devalued, and which is going to make our dollar stronger. And that it sounds great on the surface. We had talked about August of a few years ago. That sounds great on the surface, but especially in time with tariffs going on, we don't want our dollar to appear to be too strong. So that could be another underlying reason why our markets are struggling at the open, or appear to struggle at the open. So these trade tariffs, and you have no idea, especially with Trump, how long they'll last. For a bit, I hate to say this, but the immigration struggles we were having, or what debate we were having with the children, kind of took their eyes off of that on Friday, and we had a decent day on Friday. So a lot of times our attention gets diverted with something else, even if it's not the best of news or the most positive of news. But it seems like we're focused right back on China yet again. And right now, I think it is a tariff, because there's a new tariffs that were issued, so another small shot fired back. But on top of that, the devalue of their dollar, which will make our dollar appear stronger.
What does that do to the everyday life of the average American when the dollar's stronger versus weaker?
Well, in the short term, right now, nothing. The international trade is where that will come into play. So things where international or companies internationally have the ability to buy from us or buy from somewhere else, we will look more expensive than what they will. So it could derail some of our total GDP. So when our dollar is too strong, it can be a problem, and that's really the correction that we had back in, I guess it was August. I want to say 2015. I guess in my old age, I'm getting my years lost, but I think it was 2015.
And it just gets worse. but that's underlying. That's underlying there too. That our dollar is just too strong in comparison to China.
Financial Phil from Bunker Hill is with us on the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line. I saw that Harley Davidson, as a way of avoiding tariffs on their bikes in Europe, is looking for and is, I guess, already planning on manufacturing Harleys in Europe now so that they can avoid having tariffs slapped on them. This probably is not something that President Trump had in mind when he decided to go this route. If a lot of companies follow this, then this obviously negatively affects American manufacturing jobs.
Yeah, it would, and I mean, I guess the question, I hadn't heard that, but does Harley already have the ability, or are they going to put the money into manufacturing? Because if they've already had the ability, it's not that strong of a statement. If they don't have the ability and they're going to put the capital into facilities that can manufacture the bikes over there, that is a strong statement, and that's a long-term statement. Even if the tariffs end, hey, we've built our facilities over here, we've employed people, we're producing bikes, so that would continue. I wouldn't imagine it would just stop. So if I'd like to know that. Do they already have the ability to do that, or is that something they're putting capital in to be able to do that? Because that's a long-term goal. By the time they get up and running, this may be over. And so that's interesting. I hadn't heard that.
The CNBC article states Harley Davidson, up against spiraling costs from tariffs, will begin shifting the production of motorcycles headed for Europe from the U.S. to factories overseas.
So they're already existing.
Yeah, it said Harley sold almost 40,000 motorcycles in the European Union last year, generating revenue second only to their U.S. sales. So I don't know if they already have some type of infrastructure in place or not, but
it sounds
they will shift.
As if they do, and while it's certainly not good in the short term for the manufacturers of Harleys here, if that already exists and they're already producing those bikes, I don't think it's as strong as a statement as if they were putting more capital into a facility over there. But it's still, and even in the short term, it's not good news for employees here.
It's still American jobs. If more of the bikes are made in Europe, that means less of them will be made here.
Correct. Absolutely.
There's
a lot of dominoes that could fall with these tariffs, and it seems like every time you turn around trying to chase what has a tariff on it and who it's going to and what they're doing in retaliation, it's tough to keep up with.
Well, it
really
is. What I think it's pretty interesting too that the American public's sort of getting an education on how the whole global economy works. I don't think most of us were really that aware of it, but through this issue now being brought to the surface, we're really getting Econ 1A whatever education on how the whole thing kind of fits together.
Well, take a guess on how much, and the CNBC article states the amount, but guess how much the average motorcycle price would go up for a Harley because of a tariff.
Here at home?
And if trying to sell it in Europe.
Oh, trying to sell it.
Because that's where the tariff would kick in.
20%.
So give me a dollar amount. How much you think that would amount to?
$7,000.
Dave?
Oh, I'm thinking that if it's new Harley is around $20,000 or so, guessing.
I have no idea.
I would say it's probably going to go up about $1,500.
Yeah, the CNB article says the company said it expects the tariffs will result in an incremental cost of about $2,200 per average motorcycle. That means the more expensive ones, it would go up. The less expensive ones, a little less.
Right.
But that's what you're looking at, $2,200 difference, which is probably more than the average person would think a tariff would result in an increase in price.
Yeah. Well,
$2,200.
Does this, Phil, question for you, does this Supreme Court decision to quite possibly result in the online guys having to charge sales tax, is that going to have any impact on stocks that people might choose to buy into?
I don't know if it would have an impact on the stocks because it's broad-based. It's a sweeping motion, so it's going to impact everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that online purchasers, and I always use what's around me as a guide for that. It's not going to slow me. I'm still as far as a total percentage of what I buy online opposed to what I walk at the brick and mortar store. But it could hurt the profitability as capitalism. They try to compete with each other. Maybe they absorb those costs, and maybe an Amazon or even a Walmart or Jet. And there's another one out there now. I'm really interested in this online thing called Wish. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but that was something new, and I'm not quite sure what their model is. I wanted to do some research on it. But at the end of the day, if it's a broad-based sweep, it shouldn't impact one more than another until one starts to cut their margins. And those larger companies that can afford to cut their margins will be less impacted than the smaller ones.
What about comparison to bricks and mortar? Maybe you wouldn't shop in an actual physical store if you could avoid the sales tax by shopping online at some places. Would this be good news for bricks and mortar places?
You mean as far as, like, say, JCPenney or Macy's or something along those lines, that's traditional brick and mortar, the sales tax wouldn't apply to them?
No, since the sales tax would now apply to your online purchase in most cases, maybe that dissuades people from shopping online, and maybe you go into a store now.
Oh, yeah, and that's what I was alluding to at the beginning. I don't know that it does. I really don't. And that's a great question. Do people shop online out of convenience, or do they shop online out of price? That's something I don't know. I do it out of convenience. The price helps, but I do it out of convenience. And I imagine that a lot of online shoppers do the same. It's out of convenience more so than it is price. As long as the price is comparable, preferably a little bit better, they'll continue with online. So those are great questions. I don't have the answer for them. For me, for those around me, it probably wouldn't alter how we shop.
What about you, Savon? Do you shop online for price or for convenience? I know a lot of people do it for price.
I feel like it's convenience.
Mm-hmm.
I think I shop for convenience, yeah.
It's convenience justified by price, because especially with Amazon, a lot of times it's the same or less. So it is convenience justified by price.
That's true.
Convenience justified by price.
Yeah.
Okay. That would make sense. But I know a lot of times when people are shopping for something online, you can get 4 price comparisons, in seconds, and you can go with the cheapest price, and you do it quickly. And you also know you're getting that 6% discount because you're not paying sales taxes in many cases.
Yeah, and I really don't know how much this plays into it, but if you take my family as an example, if we need to go get something, a lot of times it means the whole family goes. It means we get more than what we went to go get. Sometimes it means lunch or dinner out. It means a whole slew of things that we didn't plan on doing instead of just that one item. So for us, even with the sales tax, it still would be less expensive just to do it at home. You don't get all the slime that Ada wants to make, or Abigail needs a different type of knee pads, or whatever it is. We're not forced into purchasing or even looking at it.
How'd your volleyball fundraiser go?
Oh, it went great. They did the first day. I'm going to give you guys credit for that. The first day, according to what I heard, because I was at work. I stopped there, I walked around, and then I came to work. So I'm sure all the other parents were crazed about that because they were there. They took off work, but I couldn't. But nonetheless, they said that was the best first day they'd ever had.
So,
which is surprising because it got put off like 3 times due to rain.
I want to make it clear then that what you're saying is marketing your product on this show works.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Nothing
Well, I'm
else
sure
was there.
Snickers sales are way
Everything
up after today, right?
Everything else was was against the yard sale. It really was, because it had gotten put off. So the original date that they had pushed and pushed and pushed for 3 months, on Facebook and signs and so forth, it kept getting changed. So my thought was, you're going to lose a lot of people that had planned on coming out, and that was the best first date that they had ever had.
Nice to hear. That's really nice to hear.
You're quite welcome, and it's nice to know that marketing a product on this show makes it worthwhile.
It absolutely does.
I'm going to take that as an endorsement.
For WRNR, it absolutely does.
Thank you. I'm going to record that statement. I'm going to go and play it before about 5 people I know within the next week.
Well, anything that I say, you have to do that little SPIC thing at the end that you and Matt do so well. So.
What are we expecting this week, Phil? Any big reports out? Fed commenting on anything?
That I'm aware of, no. I think the tariffs are going to take front and center until something else that turns their heads that's not economy related. So right now, until LeBron James signs somewhere, maybe we're all focused on China.
I bet that there are states and municipalities that campaign for LeBron to sign with their local team so they can get a tax boost. Think about how much income tax that guy pays.
You should watch Believe Land, if you haven't already, the 30 for 30 on ESPN, and what LeBron James coming back did to the economy.
In Cleveland?
Just simply coming back, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Just one guy in Cleveland had that much of an impact.
One guy in Cleveland, yes, absolutely.
Did income tax part of that have anything to do with the impact?
Well, maybe, but it was the jersey sales, the sales at the arena, and a lot of that was paid for with bonds, and then the trips to the playoffs, and then the finals, and the revenue that the city had gotten from the NBA and from all that, it was unbelievable. So it does go. It's crazy to think it goes so much further than just winning basketball games. It is absolutely crazy.
Well, they were in the finals with him. He left and went to Miami, and they're among the worst teams in the league. He comes back, and they're in the finals again every year and actually won one. And he may leave again, and who knows what happens after that, because Kyrie Irving left last year.
Isn't there a rumor he's going to the Lakers that's out there?
There's rumors he's going everywhere.
Oh, okay.
He does a really good job of playing this up because the NBA is front and center right now. It's crazy with how the free agency works in the NBA, and I'm not crazy about it, but it does extend the season out to where it's at least interesting, and you can ponder what happens if Leonard goes here and LeBron James goes there. I think it's neat, but when the season starts, it's not as exciting as it once was.
Philly, thank you for your time this morning.
You guys have a great week.
Financial Phil from Bunker Hill on the WV Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line at 9 o'clock. This is Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg. Rob Cornelius is back with us after this.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Zoom Video Conferencing.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. An American motorcycle company is finding a way around a trade tit-for-tat with the EU. Live to CBS's Vicki Barker.
To sidestep new European tariffs imposed in retaliation against new U.S. tariffs on European steel and aluminum, Harley-Davidson says it's moving production of its Europe-bound motorcycles to Europe.
I don't think this would be something the president intended.
Harley dealer Preston Douglas.
I don't think anybody ever likes the idea of any jobs from the United States going to Europe.
Harley-Davidson also says it will not raise prices during the 9 to 18 months it will take it to ramp up European production. Deborah?
500 families reunited, about 2,000 more to go. That's the estimate from administration officials on putting immigrant children and their relatives back together. A week after he gave the order, President Trump is calling for immediate deportations for new arrivals. Correspondent Stephen Portnoy.
Immigrants picked up illegally crossing the border are already subject to what's called expedited removal. That's immediate deportation without first seeing a judge. Since George W. Bush's presidency, it's been used on recent arrivals caught within 100 miles of the border. What's unclear is how much further President Trump would like to go and whether he'd stop immigration judges from reviewing the growing backlog of asylum claims.
2,500 people have been forced from their homes in Northern California in a wildfire tearing through dry brush in Clear Lake Oaks.
Difficult 24 hours not to know if your animals are okay or your house is okay or your neighbors are okay.
The flames are just miles from last year's wildfire that devastated parts of California wine country. Toshiba is recalling more than 3 million AC adapters. Reporter Gavin Blair is in Tokyo.
The electronics to nuclear power conglomerate is recalling nearly 3.5 million power adapters for computers, including its popular Dynabook laptops. 11 of the adapters have given off smoke or caught fire since May 2015, though no injuries have yet been reported. The recalled products were manufactured between 2009 and 2011 and sold in America, Europe, Japan and other regions.
President Trump was listening when Jimmy Fallon told The Hollywood Reporter his hair-mussing moment with candidate Trump wasn't worth the ratings backlash. The president's tweeted, telling Fallon to be a man and stop whimpering. The Tonight Show host says,
"Made me feel bad. So now what? You happy? I'm depressed. You want to push me more? What do you want me to do? I know. What are you? I mean, you want me to kill myself? What would make you happy?"
Fallon says he's making a donation to a group from Texas that helps immigrants in the president's name. S&P futures are down 13. This is CBS News.
Zoom video conferencing, featuring video and audio clarity with screen sharing. Free accounts are available at zoom.us. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
Doors are being slammed in your face, and bad credit is holding you back from buying a house, car, even getting a credit card. $99 can put your credit back to a 720 or higher. That's right, just $99. Bankruptcy, tax liens, judgments, and even late pays can be removed from credit reports by calling the Giving Days Foundation. A nonprofit organization is here to help. Federal law allows you to challenge each and every item on your credit report. We'll recalculate your personal credit score for only $99 and repair your personal credit for free. Just be one of the first 10 callers. Take our personal credit challenge. Get your credit score to a 720. 800-482-4094. Call now to recalculate your personal credit score for only $99 and repair your personal credit for free. Call now. 800-482-4094. Don't miss this great free credit repair. Just be one of the first 10 callers. 800-482-4094.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. A no-contest plea from the brother of a Martinsburg city councilman. Late last week, Christopher Baker entered that plea to the destruction of property charge. He was accused of throwing out a tenant's possessions. He'll have to pay a fine and restitution. As for Jason Baker, he'll face conspiracy charges in the case in a couple of weeks. The Bakers allegedly used City of Martinsburg trucks to dispose of that tenant's belongings. They turned themselves into the police. Orders are now being taken for St. Luke's United Methodist Church's homemade pies. Church members have been making pies for 45 years now. Apple, blueberry, cherry, peach, all made from scratch and then frozen. $8 a pop, $9 for mincemeat. Several local agencies also benefit from the project, including CCAP, Loaves and Fishes, Warm the Children, and the Salvation Army. To order, you just have to call 304-263-5589. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
We're seeing a couple of very different weather patterns setting up for the Eastern Panhandle here for the next several days. That according to the weather models and charts that we're pulling here this morning. Looking at temperatures close to 80, not only this afternoon, but tomorrow too. That runs just a little bit below average for this point in the season. Lots of sunshine, though, and low humidity, so very pleasant. Not much of a breeze. Into Wednesday, a warm front developing to the south. We'll head this way. We'll increase our cloud cover, bring us our next chance for some showers and a couple of afternoon thunderstorms, and a high temperature, again, lower 80s. Then it gets hot and muggy Thursday and Friday with temperatures near 90. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio, WRNR.
Smith & Nadenbush is an independent insurance agency. You see, there's an important difference between Smith & Nadenbush and agents who work just for one company. Working for one company, they can only sell the products of that company. On the other hand, Smith & Nadenbush can design a program just for you, your family, or your business, and at the right cost. Smith & Nadenbush, Martinsburg, Charlestown, and Berkeley Springs.
Let's see, load the clothes in the washing machine,
add detergent, turn on the washer. Wait, where's all this water coming from? Oh, no!
Disasters happen. Fire, water, and natural disasters. Tell your insurance provider you prefer Blue Ridge Property Restore. Blue Ridge Property Restore, getting you back from disaster faster.
She's gonna kill me.
Welcome back to the show. This segment of the program brought to you by Bechtel Jewelers, West Virginia's largest Pandora retailer, Route 11 South Inwood, next to Viva Mexico. Little League Baseball continues today, and at 5 o'clock, Matt Miller will start our broadcast day coverage. We have 2 games today. The 5 o'clock game, excuse me, I'm not sure what's happening to the voice there, but the 5 o'clock game is Morgan County and Hedgesville. The 7:30 game will be Martinsburg and Jefferson, since Martinsburg yesterday shut out South Berkeley in 7 innings by a count of 2-0. They advance in the winner's bracket. South Berkeley moves on in the loser's bracket. So that Martinsburg-Jefferson game will be a winner's bracket game.
And this is that first round all over the country in Little League Baseball that ultimately ends up with very, very few select teams in Williamsport, Pennsylvania playing for the Little League World Series.
Yeah. The furthest I can remember a team from West Virginia getting would be a team out of, I think it was Barbersville, about 17, 18 years ago. They made it all the way to the region championship where they had to beat Texas to get to Williamsport.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
If they'd have beaten Texas, they'd have gone to Williamsport, but they lost.
And more recently than that, there was, in our listening audience here, there was I believe, a Hagerstown, Maryland team.
Yes.
That went all the way to Williamsport.
That was just a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was just in the last 5 years.
Pretty recent.
Yes.
9:08. We have, over the last couple of weeks, thanks to the first person who turned us onto this was our loyal listener and sometime Friday panelist, Judy Boykin, who said, we really need to start looking into these funds that are taking place for flood relief that aren't getting to people. Yet the money's there, it's just not getting to people.
But she's moved on to more important things like who ate my Snickers bars today.
Well, you've moved on to that. She's commenting.
Okay,
on it.
all right.
Yeah.
But you're right. We thank Judy for doing that too.
Had to do with money for West Virginia Rise, and just the federal end of this was about $150 million. There was other money involved that wasn't federal, but just the federal end of it alone was about $150 million. Rob Cornelius, a week ago, came on this program and began first of a really popular movement that he was talking about to impeach Governor Jim Justice.
Yeah, he was the first guest that we had who actually came on and said, I am involved in a movement to impeach Governor Justice. I don't think we had, we have not had another guest on the show, but we have now discussed it with the roundtable on Friday, and we've had a couple of different conversations. But it was, in fact, Rob that brought that to the airwaves, at least here locally, for the first time with us to discuss. Yes. There's actually a serious movement out there to do that.
And I'm hearing off the record comments by some elected officials around the state, Republicans, who say that they could get behind something like that.
Well, and that's what makes this issue so compelling, because usually impeachment proceedings against a governor or a president, and they don't happen that often, but when they do happen, it's usually a very partisan political situation where you've got one side, the opposite side of whoever the governor is, calling for the impeachment, and then you've got the governor or president's party sort of digging in and saying, no, this doesn't seem to be that way, quite possibly because the governor is in that, we don't really know what party he is in. He was elected as a Democrat, chose to become a Republican, and these days it doesn't seem that either side is really claiming him as their very own. And so
Rob Cornelius
kind of
is
an odd
the
situation.
Wood County Republican chairman. He joins us on the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. Rob, good morning again. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, morning, guys. And I will offer a brief amplification of what you guys just said. Now, going back to February, there's coverage. Actually, Parkersburg paper ran an article and others, but where Mike Folk, also your future state senator out there in the EP, also had discussed impeachment, frankly, over the issue of residency and the governor's absences.
Yes.
I think this flood thing is actually going to be the much bigger deal and kind of drag that story along with it.
This flood thing is, to me, it's kind of becoming like the Watergate of West Virginia. The more time that goes by and the more you learn about this, the worse it's getting, Rob.
Well, the biggest thing that happened, this happened yesterday about 4 o'clock. There was a meeting of what's called, I believe, the Post-Audits Committee of the West Virginia Legislature, which is essentially an internal investigator within the legislature. This is not the auditor, J.D. McCuskey, who's doing a great job, and frankly, other facets of this crisis. But the legislative auditor, a guy named Aaron Allred, a nonpartisan office, as it were, released their initial audit of the RISE program and what it has or hasn't done. And I'll simply read you the headline from the Charleston paper that describes this meeting. Audit. RISE hasn't finished any home reconstructions or rehabilitations. In essence, what folks learned yesterday is despite now over 2 years going by and $150 million federal dollars being sent here in addition to tons of other outside money, the actual RISE program itself cannot verify or prove they have built or finished one home, not even one mobile home. Period.
Now, the governor disputed that, saying that he has evidence that 18 homes have been repaired or replaced.
Well, that is a lot of homes. No, actually, that's less than one per month since the incident. And the reality is that's really not provable. What's happened is that's coming from the governor, coming from the National Guard, and from General Hoyer. And those come from numbers that General Hoyer has been saying both publicly and privately for months. And most of the homes he's talking about were ones that were, frankly, repaired or replaced or fixed with what amounts to private charities and an organization called VOAD, Volunteer Organization on American Disasters, I believe is what VOAD stands for. But basically taking credit for what others have done. Literally this RISE program, and in the investigation, the audit that was discussed yesterday, it was disclosed that literally every contract RISE has entered, be it tiny contracts or $50,000 or $70,000, all the way up to millions, are illegal. We're never bid properly. We're not written correctly. And they'll probably have to start over from jump on the bulk of those.
Because when you're dealing with federal dollars, I think that the strings attached to that, you mentioned bidding requirements and using small business, women-owned businesses. I mean, there's a myriad of strings attached to federal dollars in terms of how you have to procure them.
Happen with that money. I mean, what you've got is they've actually have some cases where they paid money to contractors before they were authorized to spend the money or to do it. They have paid money to contractors who have nothing to show, essentially prepaying them for expenses and whatnot when nothing's actually been constructed. There were 5 major contractors. The largest one's actually from out of state, $50 million. That $150 is a contract to a company in South Carolina called Thompson Construction Group that is represented by the governor's lobbyist, Larry Puccio, who's Joe Manchin's former campaign manager. That's
former campaign manager or managing his campaign now?
Well, I believe technically he was managing the outside PAC that supports Joe. I don't believe he's technically on the current campaign, but you get the idea.
This starts to smell. This starts to smell really bad when you start getting into all of those different connections. And I think Rob might be right here. I mean, this is starting to look like kind of a Watergate, kind of thing. But I'll tell you one thing that troubles me.
Sure.
And this goes to the Governor Justice saying he had no way of knowing until recently about the problems West Virginia was having with long-term flood relief. How could the governor of a state not know that? That just seems. Is that because he's not going to work every day to get briefed?
I think that's fair. I mean, I told you guys what the numbers last week. We can document through May. The governor typically shows up at work 1.1, 1.2 days per week from January 1 to May 31. He's shown up about every 2 days, every 2 or 3 days since the heat started getting turned on him a couple weeks ago. But you're right, he's absolutely an absentee governor, and he leaves people in charge that are essentially unelected people, unelected workers. As we said, Bray Carey, his staff attorney, Brian Abraham, guys like that. But no one had their eye on this ball whatsoever. And the problem is he really cannot pass this buck. I mean, literally, if there was a problem with flood relief, he lives in one of the 2 most affected counties by the flood, period. If he had even poked his head outside of his home in Lewisburg, West Virginia, he probably would have heard about some of these things. You had complaints come into the governor's office by phone and by email that have been verified and FOIA'd last fall. And we know internally that they knew about the problems with the RISE program by November or December. But again, instead of going outside the administration for help, going to the Attorney General, the U.S. Attorney immediately, they tried to have their own investigation and then hide it or cover it up, didn't tell anybody about it until at least April. So for 5 or 6 months, they sat on this, either not knowing what to do or intentionally covering it. But take your pick, whether it's incompetence or intent, both are bad, and both don't build houses for people who don't have houses.
So I'm led to believe here then, Rob, that you've got these companies, construction companies, that have millions of dollars in some account, in their bank account. God only knows where it might be. That's been paid by the state of West Virginia to those businesses on contracts that were illegal based upon not following federal guidelines. But they've got the money anyway, and no houses have been built. Does that kind of sum it up?
Well, it's funny. They've gotten a little bit of the money, and that's where this is kind of a weird conundrum.
Oh, so they don't have the whole thing then?
Not much. No,
Okay.
no. As we said, the numbers that come up that have only a couple $1 million gone out the door are true. So a lot of this money is still, we believe, hopefully in a state account, still in one of these checking accounts, so to speak. But some of these companies had already been paid in drips and drabs. Essentially, what happened was, it appeared that 3 of these contractors were slated to build what amounted to mobile home units. And those were bid at around $60,000-$65,000 a crack, depending on whether they were handicap accessible or had these sort of, needed to be taken off the ground a little further because of terrain. And these companies essentially received 1/4 down payments on a bunch of initial mobile homes. That'd be in the area of $14,000 to $17,000 per. But none of those appear to ever have been completed or constructed. But the total that's been paid out is less than $2 million. So thankfully, that's one of the few things that's gone right. The money hasn't been spent, but it hasn't been spent wrongly necessarily either. It's just a question of the money is still sitting in those accounts. It's very, very weird. Really, the only good thing that's happened is there were 5 contractors under bid, the largest one, that out-of-state company we just discussed. On a whole other page, there's one of these contractors who's supposed to do remodelings and not brand new units, was actually owned by a sex offender. I'm not sure what the state bidding process does with that, but it was very much singly owned by a sex offender in Fayette County. And those guys haven't been paid, thankfully.
Now, it gets better and better, doesn't it?
Now, who's Horn?
That's really the only upside of yesterday's report is the child sex offender has not been given a check, so we've got that going for us.
Rob, who's Horn? Is that a consultant or a company, or because I'm looking?
Horn is a consulting group. I hesitate to call them an accountant. They do a lot of work like one of the big accounting firms does. And the whole point of bringing in Horn is to manage this contract. And actually, I think Horn may be one of the least bad actors here, as strange as that sounds. By bringing in Horn, the idea for the government was to let them manage the program. And if there was any issues or illegality or bad spending, essentially Horn, as a consultant and a management company, is there to bond the government. As in, if there's a big screw-up, well, Horn's going to owe the money back to the feds, not West Virginia. It's essentially like buying insurance that your program's going to be run right. But the problem is Horn, the money's never really been spent, so it's not like it's been run incorrectly on that end. But what Horn did do wrong probably is they were in charge of getting all the reports from the homeowners, the thousands of people who had a problem, taking those reports and then dispatching them as approved, disapproved, and then getting them to the right agency or right contractor to build or repair or not do anything if people, didn't meet certain requirements. So I think on one hand, Horn has failed administratively, but I don't think just by, my looking at my detective work, I'm not sure they're involved in any theft or anything improper on the money side, but they were brought in by the state to do what the state thought they couldn't, and effectively to protect the state, and they probably haven't done that.
So we should not be concerned that Horn, the consultant, has received $700,000 in payments already, and they've invoiced for another $1.4 million.
And
so
again,
that would be
as I would say, now that together, that's about 1% of that full amount of $150 million. That's not a whole lot. I would say that first 700 probably makes sense compared to what they've done in terms of intake and bringing all the people in to, say that these 500 homes are broken, these 500 homes need repaired, these 500 homes are washed out. That's basically what they did. It was to send people into the field and record all this information. The problem is they're telling people you're approved, you're unapproved, and not giving them any reasons, and not giving them any sort of information. So you've got them waiting long periods of time, and they're receiving like the thin letter, a straight denial, or the thick letter, but like there's no real order to it. And that's really what's got people scared and concerned out there in the communities is they think money's coming from this program, but then when they're told yes or no, they have no idea why and no idea how to appeal, if to appeal. A lot of it's a communication problem, and that's honestly one of the biggest parts of this administration, well beyond Horn and Rise and all of this. Is an administration that, doesn't have a message or hides from the media, hides from the voters.
Rob Cornelius is our guest. He is the chairman of the Republican Party in Wood County. We're talking about the flood relief dollars, again, as we continue trying to track these dollars and try to find out what's going on with this program and why people aren't getting relief. So, Rob, I have a couple of questions for you on this, sure. Based on a couple of little pieces of information you've given us today. One, is there any concern at all about where this $150 million is? Do we know specifically where these accounts are and who's managing these accounts?
Well, right now, these accounts, I believe, and again, I think a great guest for you guys in the near term would be our state auditor, J.B. McCuskey, who's really had his eye on this and is going to turn out to be one of the more important figures in this issue, in this scandal, before we're all done here. I believe the money is in the state accounts, and he can identify where it is, and it joins me in basically being like, thank God, only $1.5 million of it's gone out the door.
Okay.
Does not appear to have disappeared. That's really the best news in all this.
Right.
But again, that was the weird thing. Made it hard to tell the story to you guys the first time. It's like we're worried about money being stolen, but then we look down, just the money hasn't been spent. Like they're not doing the job of fixing houses. So it's very, very strange scenario. It's not like someone's gone out the door with a briefcase with $5 million in it.
All right, so we're not concerned that $150 million is missing. We know that we still have the $150 million. Okay.
We're concerned that it's been 2 years and they haven't built a single house with $150 million.
Okay. So then the next question I have then has to do with that the expenditure of some of the money illegally, that we've issued contracts and the contracts may be illegal.
Correct.
That part has been established as well. So then my follow-up to that then is this. If we can prove that the state has issued contracts, therefore spent money, and potentially spent it illegally, then if we've spent the money but we're not getting anything in return in terms of a service of a house being fixed, where did the money go? What specifically was it spent on? And are we looking into the places where we paid the money specifically for fraudulent use of illegal funds?
Well, absolutely, and that's what they're doing. That's what they should be doing. You can see where the money's gone out the door in these tranches. As I said, for these trailer homes, about $15,000 a crack to 3 or 4 of these contractors. One is this out-of-state contractor, Thompson Construction Group, out of South Carolina, and they've gotten about $700,000, mostly in these tranches of $15,000 or $17,000 a crack. Another's a local construction firm down in the Fayette-Nicholas area called Dan Hill Construction. And there are a couple others that bid and have contracts but have not been paid yet, including the one we were kind of making fun of earlier. So the money's gone out the door for those, even though that's a very small amount. Again, $1 million out of 150 doesn't sound like a lot. It's hard to say where that money's gone. In fact, some of it went out the door. Technically, some of these expenses weren't even legally allowed to be incurred until after February 20th. There are various dates, various important things they have to hit with the feds for these contracts to be legal, and money was going out the door before February 20th. So on one hand, you're like, well, great, hopefully they were fixing houses. But on the other hand, it violated the law. And all these contracts, the problem was they made significant changes in each of these contracts. Like there were first 2 contracts that were illegal and 6 or 7 that are not. And the 6 or 7 that are not are illegal because they're significantly different than the first 2. Like if you're, say we're building 2,000 square foot homes, for instance, and then the next bid is for, homes that are a little bigger, 2,200 square feet. Just in essence, you can probably make that change internally. Purchasing will let you do that, and it's legal. However, if you're building 2,000 square foot homes, and then you flip around and you're building, attached patio homes with 4-car garages, that's a substantially different bid. And what was happening is these other contracts are being disallowed were all substantially different than the original bids. So they all must rebid. They're all bad. They all have to be struck down, period.
If J.B. McCuskey finds that there are some serious violations here, does he bring in a federal prosecutor to follow up then, or is it within the states?
The funny thing is, West Virginia's government's very strange. The Attorney General has virtually zero prosecutorial authority. The auditor actually has an office for dealing with public corruption and the ability to do a little bit of their own prosecuting, They don't just have to refer things out to a county prosecutor or the feds. They can actually push things on their own. I don't know if that's something that will happen here, but the auditor's office, strangely in West Virginia, has more teeth than the AG's office in this case. So they're the ones that certainly can do these things, and I can't speak for the federal prosecutor, Mike Stewart, Southern District, as to whether they're working together. But what you'll notice is when Stewart came out last week on Wednesday, on West Virginia Day, and handed down the indictment against Alan Laffer, the Supreme Court judge, he made a very clear hint that he was, I believe, to quote or paraphrase, looking at other branches of state government. And hopefully that means was targeted at the executive, what we're talking about today.
Do you think the governor has time to turn this around? And if he could do this in a relatively short period of time, do you think that you and your people that are calling for his impeachment would maybe back down from that and give him a chance to do his job? Or is it has he crossed the line and has it gone too far already?
Well, every 48 hours or so over the last couple of weeks, he's been coming out and doing media, doing a press conference. And whether they're doing the job or not on flooding, it's going to take a little time to see. But the other thing that's pushing is the residency and absenteeism issue. And what you had last week on Thursday, a delegate who I think I mentioned on the last call, Isaac Spinagle, a Democrat from Pendleton and Hardy County down to your southwest, filed a mandamus sent to Kanawha County Circuit Court to essentially ask the court to demand the governor obey Article 7 of the state constitution, which says that he shall live at the seat of government. It's a residency question, and that's going to go to court. And it probably is not something that's going to happen immediately. It's probably a few weeks away in terms of scheduling, but that's going to be an important thing. And every time the governor does press, he basically, I'm going to do an imitation here, he basically says, I don't have to live there. I can be in Greenbrier. I got a phone. And that's basically what you sit through.
That's so actually really good, Rob. That's really
I'm
good.
trying, man.
That's good. And since
but he's silent.
And since the
governor
governor,
tells the media, I'm going to do what I want, and that's a problem. And the legislature's not handling it well. So here's the thing: if you're going to impeach him, it's going to be over negligence and incompetence. But every day he angers up the blood of everybody else by no-showing work and telling everyone he knows better. And that's a problem. It's a bipartisan problem. This is deep. This is ours. I'm wingtip to wingtip with a lot of liberal guys I normally wouldn't give the time of day, but we all want to reset the state government. And I think we all know this is a change we have to make.
Rob Cornelius on the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line. Rob, thank you very much for the information today. Much appreciated.
Hey, thanks, guys. I'll keep you in the loop, and hopefully this thing keeps moving this week. Appreciate it.
Had a good impression of Jim Justice, too.
Well, since the governor won't come on the show, we could have Rob come on and imitate him.
Thanks, Rob.
Bye, y'all.
It is 9:29. Chief of Police Maury Richards is with us next, and John Orem will join us by telephone, too. More to come on that in a minute.
Life is complicated, but your finances shouldn't have to be. At BCT, we simplify your financial life. Bank of Charlestown is a locally owned community bank with 7 conveniently located offices serving the eastern panhandle of West Virginia, Middleburg, Virginia, and their newest office in Hagerstown, Maryland. With over 140 years of experience, BCT is the tri-state area's choice for fast, convenient, and hassle-free banking solutions. Whether you are a high school senior looking for a student checking account, a college graduate purchasing a new car, a first-time home buyer, or investing for retirement, BCT has flexible solutions to fit your lifestyle. BCT is committed to providing everyday ways to simplify your financial life. Also, make sure you are following BCT on Twitter and Instagram at MyBCT or like their Facebook page to see how BCT reinvests local deposits back into the communities they serve. BCT, we simplify your financial life.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Since 1877, Farmers & Mechanics insurance companies have proudly supported our local community. Farmers & Mechanics has the insurance products to meet your needs, including home, auto, farm, dwelling fire, business owners, and umbrella coverage. Please contact your local independent agency for a review of your insurance needs and ask for a policy from the company that knows you best. Farmers & Mechanics Insurance Companies, just off Edwin Miller Boulevard on Administrative Drive in Martinsburg. FMIWV.com.
The
WVU Medicine Spring Mills office building is now open. This new 3-story, 40,000 square foot facility is conveniently located off Interstate 81, exit 20 at the intersection of US 11 and Campus Drive. The WVU Medicine Spring Mills medical office building features many different offices and services for area residents. It's now home to urgent care, women's imaging center, lab services, and primary care pediatrics. The WVU Medicine Spring Mills office building now open to serve you.
Thinking of trading your car for a new one? Consider donating your used car to the Good News Mountaineer Garage for a low-income family needing transportation to work or school. You get the maximum federal and state deductions allowed by law with your donation to the Good News Mountaineer Garage, and your car donation can really change the life of a West Virginia family. Call 1-866-GIVE-CAR or go online at goodnewsmountaineergarage.com. Good News is partially funded by the West Virginia Department of Health and Human Resources.
About LeBron James and you thought of the song.
I think it does fit, doesn't it?
It does fit.
Welcome back to the program. This segment of Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave, brought to you by the Brown Funeral Homes and Cremations, Robert Fields and Sons, a family-owned full-service funeral home proudly serving our area since 1880. Tomorrow morning on the program in the 8:30 block, we're going to talk with Dr. Joe Reedy, Berkeley County Health Department health officer. Apparently there's been an outbreak of hepatitis in the community, and they were actually hosting a press conference on that this morning.
That's serious.
Indeed. We're going to talk to the doctor about that tomorrow morning. Now, maybe you saw the article in the Journal. Over the weekend, the Martinsburg Police Department announced the initiation of a third case against landlord John Orem under the city's drug house ordinance. According to a press release, a search warrant was executed Tuesday night last week on the rental property at 507 South Raleigh Street, where officers discovered the location to be a major illegal drug operation distributing large quantities of methamphetamine, the release said. The release then goes on to identify the people who were located at the residence, and the residence, of course, owned by one John Orem. Well, John Orem joins us on the phone this morning, courtesy of the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line, and in studio, Chief of Police of the City of Martinsburg, Maury Richards. Maury, good morning to you.
Good morning, Rob. Good morning, Dave. Good morning to you, sir.
And John Orem, thank you for joining us via phone this morning. John?
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Chief, before we talk to John, if you could, tell us the law in regards to what's involved in the process that took place at the location owned by Mr. Orem.
Well, of course, we're talking about our drug house ordinance. I'm not going to get into all the specifics of that case. Mr. Orem will be up in front of the judge on July 25th. But all those facts were put out in our press release, and it's public knowledge. But, here's the situation in general, and I think this is what we really have to concentrate on, is that the purpose of our drug house ordinance is to make a better community. We've got a drug problem. We're fighting that problem. And, what the essence of this ordinance is accomplishing is that we have to have a community where decent people can raise a family and not have their kids grow up next to drug dealers. And we need the cooperation of landlords to get that done. And now most landlords, and we've had 28 cases, most of them have been very cooperative and helpful. But Mr. Orem has deliberately decided to remain part of the problem instead of the solution. And, that's very frustrating.
When you say deliberately, Chief, what does it mean that he's deliberately decided to remain a part of the problem and not the solution?
Well, by not being a proactive landlord, getting in there, screening tenants properly, letting us know if there are problems on those locations, which many other property owners have stepped up to do. And it goes beyond that. I mean, Mr. Orem is out there trashing this ordinance, calling it illegal, making all kinds of false claims that he's being, targeted specifically. And these things are not the case. He's attacking the integrity of our department. That's not cooperation. That's deliberately trying to cause a problem.
John Orem joins us, as I said, via telephone this morning. John is out of town. That's why he's not in studio with us. John, you claim that you were not notified of any violations on the property, that you were unaware of any concerns on the property, and this first that you heard about it was when you were cited about the situation. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Am I speaking with Dave?
This is Rob right now.
Rob. Rob, that is correct. I've been an opponent of this bill since before it was enacted. There's no doubt. I met with Chief Richards prior to the enactment of this bill or this law. I just don't think it's a good law. I really don't think it's the way that we handle drug enforcement. You know, we don't take it out of the hands of law enforcement and put it in the hands of private citizens or landlords to take care of people that are breaking the law. I don't disagree. We all want a safe community and we all want to do our part. And we screen our tenants. We do a background check on all of our tenants. You know, we watch our properties. We inspect our properties monthly. And if we get any reports of anything, we're proactive on taking care of it. If we have to evict the people, send them letters, whatever it may be. If there's some reason we should need to contact the police department, we will do that. I'd like to know what exactly it is that I'm not doing other than being an opponent of this bill, which I have every right to be. You know, I shouldn't be targeted. And when I say I'm being targeted, let me ask you a quick question. Out of the 28 people or landlords that were cited under this ordinance, how many were headlining the police department's website saying Orem property or Berkshire property or whatever property? Have you ever seen anybody else headline it with their name? As a matter of fact, there's 3 people charged with felonies here. Do you remember their names?
Are you talking to me, John, or Chief Richards?
Yeah, to you.
No, I do not.
There's 3 people in that article. You're right. It's about me. The article's about me for some reason. There's 3 people that committed felony crimes, you know, involved in the drug distribution, and nobody knows their name because the article is clearly designed to attack me and fight with me because I'm an opponent of this bill. But I don't think that's the way it's supposed to work in a civilized society. Yeah, I have the right to stand up and voice my opinion and stand against a law that I don't think is legal or even correct. But I don't think I should be targeted and beat down, you know, because of it. I mean, if that's the way they want to run this, that's fine. I just don't think it's the proper way to do it. You know, I am fighting with the ACLU. I have Ian Goldberg, you know, looking into filing a civil suit against this. I've fought it in court. You know, another thing, Chief Richards is a bit misleading in a lot of things he says. He says I'm obstinate or not doing my part. I'd like to know what it is exactly that I could do besides what I'm doing. And additionally, he said that there needs to be stiffer penalties for people like me who are multiple offenders. Well, I'm not an offender. I've never been convicted of anything. The 2 prior cases were dismissed the minute I walked in and said I evicted the people. So I have no prior convictions. All I was done is cited in to see if I did my part. I did my part. The case was dropped. So I'm not a multiple offender. I've been cited in to see if I'm doing my part. They agreed that I am. So who exactly is he talking about, the multiple offender?
John, this is Dave. By the way, the 3 people that I guess were charged were Corey Nipper, Takira Wimberly, and Richard Rhodes. And I only know that because that was in the Martinsburg Police Department press release. Mm-hmm. So whoever wrote that press release did, in fact, include those, just for the record, did include those names in the article.
I do know they were in there, but headlining the release with Orem property all 3 times, but none of the other 28 landlords headlined the release. It wasn't the Berkshire property or whoever else. You know, what happened with that big cocaine? They got thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars of cocaine from Martin's Landing, but I never heard of them getting cited. You know, I see arrests and drug raids over at the projects all the time. Has the city been cited? You know, all these other things are going on. All these other people are being cited, but it's a big press release for the city, and they need to name me as the headliner to pat themselves on the back.
Let's let the chief respond to that.
Yeah, and that's simple. Mr. Orem wants to make this all about him, and it's not. It's about our community. John Orem went on our Facebook site and made a number of very false statements, saying that, once again, he's a victim, that we're only using his name each time out of the 28 drug houses cited, and that's so absolutely false, it's so outrageously wrong, it's almost unbelievable. Now, no one has to take my word for it. The folks who are listening, you're out there, it's real simple. Go to martinsburgpd.org, that's our website. On the toolbar, you'll see news. Scroll down to press releases, and you can pull up every press release that we've put out on every drug house. Every owner has been named. Every offender that we've arrested has been named.
And I'll agree with that 100%.
Well, yeah, you agree with it now, but that's not what you said, in print.
It is what I said.
When you're out there trashing. John, I'll let you talk, and I would appreciate if you gave me the same courtesy, okay?
Sure thing.
So that's number one. Those statements are absolutely false. Everyone is treated the same. The second, Mr. Orem is talking about, cases that were thrown out or dismissed. Those were violations of his violations of the drug house ordinance, and yes, they're dismissed after that landlord comes into compliance with the order of abatement. So it's not like those were thrown out because they had no merit. It's because we forced him to come into compliance. And so the bottom line is this: we need cooperation. We need people to come up. I've had to track him down and serve him on one occasion, the order of abatement. 98% of the other landlords, when they get that notice, when they see that press release, they're calling me. They're in my office, within hours to say, what can we do? What can I do to make this better? I don't want drugs on these properties. I don't want drugs in this town. What can we do to cooperate? And that's the type of cooperation we need. And unfortunately, we don't get that from John Orem. Instead, he's, trashing this ordinance, talking about illegal. Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Orem, I hope you filed that lawsuit. I don't know why it took you 2 years to do it, because that's how long we've had this ordinance in place. You go to court and comply, so apparently it can't be that illegal, but it's an important tool that we need to fight drugs in this community to make it a better and safer place for our families and our kids.
John, hold on. I know you probably want to get in here. I just want to ask the chief a follow-up question here. In the Facebook post that John Orem wrote on, I suppose this is on the police department Facebook, he says, and I'll read this verbatim, "The truth is that the ordinance does nothing more than move this element from one location to another. Drug and prostitution in the city is actually up, maybe not at those certain houses, but in the city limits." Your response, Chief?
Well, I'll tell you what, if drugs and prostitution might be up on his properties, but they're not up in the city. And we've had 28 instances. Well, we'll see how this last one, but of the previous 27 that we have used this drug house ordinance on, we've run the calls for service a year prior and then everything after. And this is how effective this ordinance is. We have not had one call of active drug selling on any of those locations. Calls for service from a year prior have been reduced 90%. The quality of life has improved in each one of those neighborhoods, and our police officers have more time to go out and fight other problems. So that's an absolute fact. Now, does a problem just get moved on to the next location? Well, a couple things come into play.
And
there.
We've talked about this issue in the past before, because that was a question I think I asked when you first implemented it.
And here are the facts. Number one, a lot of these drug dealers are ending up in jail or going back to prison. Okay, that's number one. Two, when we're talking about moving the problem along, this is where we need those responsible landlords, because, who's renting to these people if they get evicted? These people are criminals. They've been either convicted of crimes or arrested for these crimes, and it's up to those landlords to do a better job of screening, and most of them are. You just can't, have someone show up with a paper bag full of $20 bills and no job and say, I want to rent a place and then get a lease? I mean, that's ridiculous.
John Orem, a question I have for you is, because I'm not sure I understand it, but in your email, if I read this right, you're essentially saying that the way to handle these things is for you to get a call, you as the landlord, to get a phone call from the chief telling you that there's a problem. And I don't know what you mean by that, because it seems
Okay.
to me odd that rather than going in and bust the house, that you'd get a personal phone call from the chief that said, we're going to bust your house.
Let me back up just a little bit and reiterate a couple things. First off, I went in and met with the chief prior to the institution of this law, and he told me that this law is being passed to deal with out-of-state owners that are just letting these houses be run and done by whoever lives there. They don't care. It gives them an arm to reach out and deal with these out-of-state owners. Local people like myself would be able, if they get a complaint, multiple calls to a property, the police department can reach out and say, hey, there's a problem here. Please take care of it. I'm not talking about, I wasn't notified prior to a drug arrest or a search warrant, but if there's multiple calls at a property, yeah, we should be notified. There's no way we can monitor the scanner 24/7 to know if there's calls at every single property that we may own. That's what I'm talking about, and that's what was told to me by Chief Richards. I don't want to live in a police state. I don't want to live where government overreach just controls every part of our life. I know Chief Richards is from Chicago. I'm from West Virginia. I like to live a little different, and some of these things that he stated just a moment ago are just untrue about me. First off, he just talked about the 3 strikes, or the multiple conviction. Again, I wasn't forced to do anything. When you're cited for a drug house ordinance violation, all you have to do is evict the tenant. That's it. I would have done that anyway, should I have known about it. So if they have to arrest somebody that lives on one of my property, I don't care if it even happened at my property. If I'm notified that person was arrested for a certain offense, I'll evict them. A notice that one of my tenants was arrested by mail, by phone call, whatever, I'm fine with that. There's no need to publicize this and put out this summons to appear for court so that they can ask me, did you evict that person? Yes, I evicted that person. Okay, well, we're going to dismiss it because you're now in compliance. If that's forcing me to become in compliance, well, it's a pretty hard way to force somebody when all they can do is pick up the phone and it'll accomplish the same thing. And we're talking about the use of police and their manpower. Well, wouldn't it be better served picking up the phone instead of typing up a summons and going to court and all these different things? Just pick up the phone and say, hey, we arrested Joe Blow that lives at one of your properties. Much easier, much quicker. And the reason I show up to court is because I'm a law-abiding citizen. I show up to court even whether I believe this law is an incorrect law or not, because it is currently our law, and I will abide by it. And then you insinuated just a moment ago, didn't necessarily say it was me, but talked about people showing up with a bag of $20 bills. We run a full background on every single person we rent to, in the city or out of the city. Like I said, we do monthly inspections. If we have any notice of any multiple calls to a property, we're investigating it and trying to figure out why and evicting if necessary. I'd like to know what else it is that I could do that would make me more compliant with the code.
Well, let's get the answer to that right now. Chief, what more could John Orem do to make himself more compliant with the code?
Well, I'll tell you what, before we get to that, just let me answer a couple of things that he threw out there. And he threw out a lot, so if I miss something, I apologize. But, number one, this ordinance has never applied to just out-of-state landlords, and I never told anyone any of that. It applies to out-of-state landlords, it applies to local landlords, and it applies to out-of-town landlords like Mr. Orem. And the whole question, or the whole issue of, hey, I'll evict someone if they get caught selling dope, well, that's not enough. That just doesn't cut it. And the other important part of this, and this is why we've had such success in keeping these problems out of places that we've shut down, is because part of that order of abatement isn't just, hey, evict the drug dealer. It's you will agree, the landlord will agree to do stringent checks in the future to make sure that we don't replace that person with another drug dealer, because that was happening in the past too. It was a revolving door. It's like, okay, yeah, someone got locked up for drugs, I'm evicting them, and then you get in the next person without any kind of serious background check. We're not going to have that anymore. We're not putting up with that. And finally, John's talking about now, like, well, I never asked for calls on these because I understand about search warrants. Well, he's saying that today. That's not what he said, in print. We got on our Facebook page. He said, why didn't I get calls on these, properties? Well, the two...
He says it's because you're from Chicago, and in West Virginia you don't do things that way.
Well, I tell you what. Yeah, I am from Chicago, and guess what? Families in Chicago don't like their kids, living next to drug houses either. Okay, so yeah, I'm from Chicago. All right. Now, but let's talk about those other two properties, 522 High Street and 112 South Water. John says he wants calls there, before we do something. Those were long-term drug investigations, one of them by our Eastern Panhandle Drug and Violent Crime Task Force. These are sensitive investigations, undercover investigations, and, Mr. Orem says that he wants a tip. John Orem, knows, from experience, being a former law enforcement officer, that you just don't do things like that in criminal investigations. So I don't see how he can responsibly put those things in paper, in print, that he expects that type of stuff. It's ridiculous.
John?
That was just clearly a miscommunication, apparently. Either I said something wrong or it was heard wrong, because what I said is if there's multiple calls to a property and the property is a community issue and a community problem, I'm not talking about issues where a search warrant is going to be served. I'm not talking about issues that are long-term investigations. But if there's multiple calls to a property, multiple police calls, and it's a community issue, a community nuisance, I would expect a phone call instead of this type of action. And let's talk about those other two properties if we'd like. The first property wasn't the person that I rented to. It was apparently somebody that was there one time for a party and maybe sold drugs to an undercover. The female tenant I had was never charged with anything, was never any part of this other than this person that they were looking for was not there when they served the search warrant. Was just a female tenant with two small children that worked at Macy's. The second house was a 68-year-old female who happened to have a gentleman that was visiting her as like a brother or a cousin. And this 68-year-old lady was evicted on house number 2 because her brother was arrested in the front yard with possession. Now, this third one is reasonable. I can understand that. These tenants were actually doing something themselves. But the first two weren't even the person that they were looking for and wasn't a resident or a tenant at the property. But, everything that I said is accurate. It's being twisted a little bit to make it sound inaccurate, just like when I was referring to the articles not naming the landlords. I'm saying in the headlines. That's exactly what I said. You could rewind it and listen. I'm selling headlines for you. You're using my name in the headlines. Orem property. It's not Buckhauser property or Martin property or whoever property. But every single time it's one of my properties. And that brings me to another thing. I have 100-some properties. If somebody else has 5 properties and they get one abatement issue, there are a lot more violations apparently to them compared to my 100, because I'm, just by sheer numbers, if you do the numbers, I am more likely to get a second violation than somebody with 5 houses.
John, this is Dave. This is Dave again. Do you feel that this situation that you're currently in is because of personal animosity that the chief has towards you personally, and if so, where do you think that might come from?
Oh, I do think I've made Mr. or Chief Richards mad. I do. His first statement when he walked in today was pretty much clear that he feels that I'm bucking him or bucking the system. I'm that way by nature. If I disagree with a law, I think that it's a bad law, I'm going to stand up.
So you don't think that what the chief is really trying to do is get rid of illegal drugs from these houses in the city of Martinsburg?
No, I believe that's his intent. Yes, it is. Your question was, more direct about him being a little bit upset or having something personal. Yeah, I think I've upset him. I don't think he's made me a target necessarily. I think he's made me a target by putting my name as a headline in his news releases or coming out and saying that I'm a multiple offender when I've never offended. I've been asked to summons to court, and they've dismissed it because I'm in compliance, but I'm not a multiple offender. I've not been convicted of anything.
I think that, I don't think it said, as I read it, I don't believe it said multiple offender. It said third time cited. John, isn't that accurate, Chief?
What he said specifically was, we need to have a stiffer penalty for multiple offenders, for people with multiple offenses.
I see.
And that would not apply to me because I don't have any offenses.
You have three times being cited, though.
Cited, but that's like getting a ticket, going to court, and they say, no, you're not guilty.
So on July 25th, you're going to go to court to provide evidence that you have complied with the magistrate's order to clean up the drug problem on your property.
I'm going to go in and show proof that I evicted the people. Yes, that's correct.
Are you going to do do you plan to do anything else to make sure that this doesn't occur on your properties in the future?
I'm going to do exactly like we've been doing. We run a stringent background check on every applicant. And when I asked you to ask the chief, and you said you were going to get him to answer that, I run stringent background check on every applicant and every person that's supposed to be living in the house. And we do monthly inspections. If we get a call, we act on any calls. Please, if there's anything else that I'm not doing that's within the scope of the law, tell me what that is that I can do to be in further compliance or to make this situation better on my part.
John, thanks for your time this morning. We have to get to our final commercial break, and we'll be right back with the final couple of seconds on the program right after we do this here.
It's that time of year for loud bangs. No, not just thunderstorms, but fireworks. The city of Martinsburg reminds you that even though West Virginia State Code permits the sale of fireworks, discharging them within city limits is prohibited. And this Martinsburg City Ordinance is in force all year long. Set off fireworks within the city of Martinsburg and you're risking a fine of $500, 30 days in jail, or both. Don't risk it. The discharge of fireworks within city limits is against the law. If you see or hear fireworks being discharged, call the Martinsburg Police Department at 304-264-2100. That's 304-264-2100. Remember, it's against the law to set off fireworks in the city of Martinsburg today and every day. This message paid for by the city of Martinsburg.
It's the Jeep Celebration event at Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Martinsburg. Stop in now for great deals on a great line of Jeep products. Get $1,000 cash back on a 2019 Jeep Cherokee with financing at 0% for 60 months. How about a new 2019 Cherokee Latitude 4x4, only $219 a month, or a 2018 Jeep Wrangler JK for only $296 a month. Get bonus cash up to $6,000 off a 2018 Renegade, plus $500 trade. Stop by and test drive a Chrysler Pacifica and get free movie passes. It's all at the Jeep Celebration event at Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty on Kelly Island Road, or online at millerschryslerjeep.com. All payments based on approved credit, taxes, tags, and processing fees extra. See dealer for details.
Our final thoughts brought to you by L.A. Roberts Jewelers in downtown Martinsburg. L.A. Roberts, committed to excellence in quality design and craftsmanship. Chief, you get the final word, and a note, we will be late for our network news break coming up here on the Glenn Beck Show. Go ahead, Chief.
Well,
hold on, let me turn your
Thank
mic
you for
on.
this opportunity, and it's important that we get the facts out about this drug house ordinance that is making our community better. Mr. Orem threw so much stuff out there that's so, patently false. It's hard to keep track. I never called this guy an offender, but he is a 3-time violator of this drug house ordinance. The first 3-time violator that we've had, okay? The bottom line is this, and he talks about legality and things like this. This is not an illegal ordinance because the bottom line is you don't have a constitutional right to rent to drug dealers and not be held accountable by the community. It's just that simple. That's the way, our city is going to be run, that Drug dealers are going to be held accountable, and people that enable that to happen are going to be held accountable. It's that simple. And finally, Mr. Orem talks about, he's a big-time landlord and he's got 100 properties. Well, congratulations. But I would think that someone with that much wealth and property and standing in this community would set the example of responsibility, not an example of defiance and trashing up the fine men and women of this police department who are making the city better and safer every day.
And Maury, he asked what he can do better to comply with the law. What can he do better, background check-wise or otherwise?
Well, he mentioned that he did background checks. We're going to check that out because, there will be the court case on July 25th, and we'll see what kind of background checks he did. Not going to comment on the case, but, those things are going to have to come out. What can you do better? Be responsible. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Don't trash the fine men and women of this police department. You want to stop drugs? Start in your own house and take care of business on the properties that you own and manage.
Chief Maury Richards, thank you very much for coming in studio with the answers to some of those questions that were asked by John Orem and by us. And thank you, John Orem, by the way, as our guest on the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line. And that will wrap up our program for today. We're late getting to the news, and our final minute brought to you this morning by the Washington Nationals. MLB At Bat is your #1 Nationals app. Customize your experience to catch every moment this season. Download MLB At Bat today. It's 10:02. This is Talk Radio, WRNR Martinsburg.
Update on a wildfire that's forced 2,500 people from their homes in Northern California. CBS's Mark Strassman is in Clear Lake Oaks.